Why is it this hard to make movies about giant killer sharks? Alright, so time for the other stinker I had to sit through recently. That just went on Max not too long ago. I keep wanting to say HBO, but they changed it to Max for some dumb fucking reason. So this is the Meg 2, which is obviously a sequel to the original Meg, which Howard and I watched, and we both liked it. We both enjoyed it for the kind of stupid nonsense that it was. This is their attempt to kind of recapture that magic, and it is weirdly overly convoluted. And also almost 2 hours long, for some fucking reason. Why are so many of these shitty half-baked movies like 2 hours long? They do not need to be you could have made this even an hour and a half. But I digress. We'll get to that later. So the Meg 2 is obviously the sequel to the original. I already mentioned that part. This movie has broken my brain. So this movie, very much like the first one, is a collaboration between American and Chinese production companies. I only found out about that while watching the movie because I noticed it was really pandering to China. And I tried to figure... Oh, Ben Wheatley directed this? Sorry, I'm looking at the IMDb page on the side. Really? Ben Wheatley? I'm thinking of a different Wheatley. Oh, he directed Free Fire. I liked Free Fire. What the fuck happened here? Anyway, so this one also has 2 co-stars. That part's kind of hidden in the trailers, which is Jason Statham returns from the first movie. He was the same gruff asshole who now kind of has an adopted daughter of sorts of one of the characters in the first movie. This movie also really thinks you remember characters and plot lines from the first movie, which I don't know about you, but I fucking don't. But it also introduces like Jimin or Jumin. I'm probably butchering that name. It's played by Jin Woo, who I guess is a big Chinese action star. I did not know any of this. I just know they were giving this guy a lot of screen time for some reason until I looked it up in detail. I was like, okay, that's why. This is very much pandering to Chinese audiences. And you think a movie about giant sharks would be very easy to write. Or at the very least, easy to keep on track. Because all you really need to have is giant sharks and people for giant sharks to eat, and someone to stop the giant sharks. You think that would be that's really about it. That's all you need. But for some reason, we need to have Jason Statham, who is now a eco-fighting superhero, I guess, as he's going from different ecological Captain Planet villains to stop them from polluting the planet. Okay, cool, good for you. While working through his awesome new friend, played by Jin Woo, who is this super rich, super popular, like billionaire philanthropist who is trying to save the giant sharks, and even has like one that he's trained and raised from a pup, living in his like special enclosure. Which I bet you can't predict how that goes. Yeah. But he's kind of a character with no flaws, and like I kind of I don't want to say I'm kind of a Mary Sue, but he kind of is. Where he can keep up with Jason Statham on the action sequences. He just conveniently knows like the solution to every problem. He even like knows how to, like, he's the only one that knows how to fly a helicopter when they need to fly a helicopter towards the end, and just kind of shit like that. And it's kind of like this, and just has a death wish, and is constantly trying to sacrifice himself. And it's just kind of like, I don't know, like, Jason Statham's still the same way, so I can't really criticize the one without also criticizing the other. That's just not fair. But that being said, at least, like, Jason Statham, 1 was in the first movie, and 2 kind of has, like, the whole, you expect, no, that's not fair. I was going to say we expect them Jason Statham, but that being said, if you're familiar with this other guy's work and from his, like, his Chinese movie theaters, and you expect that from him, too, so that's not a fair critique. It's more just, Jason Statham has like a bit more of like a flawed characteristic, even though he also knows how to solve every problem. I don't. They're both stupid in the same way. Put it that way. So yeah, what happens this time around is they have increased their technology to explore the trench, which is where the Meg live. So they've been kind of fucking around down there and trying to like map it out and learn more about what lives down there, make all these kind of new discoveries, yada yada yada. But one day while they're exploring down there, there's this big mating call from all the Megs, which means that Jin Woo's pet Meg breaks out of its enclosure and goes down there, which you think would be the plot of the movie, but it's weirdly not. In fact, it's kind of forgotten about halfway through until the very end. But they go down to the trench and they find like a whole bunch of new Megs that are all gathered around because of like this mating ritual thing. And there's a big ultra powerful Meg, which again you think would have been the plot of the movie, but it surprisingly isn't. And there's like, oh, it's the biggest Meg anyone's ever seen. Again, not the plot of the movie for some reason. What is the plot of the movie is they find an underground facility inside the trench, which is run by this evil ecological corporate person who wants to mine it for resources and fuck the environment, and we're gonna make so much money. Really like cartoonishly evil Captain Planet shit. And then there's this Mexican villain, at least I think he's Mexican or Latino, who has a vendetta against Jason Statham, even though Jason Statham clearly has no idea who the fuck he is. And he's also a character that just refuses to die because I guess the plot needs more, for some reason, crisis, even though the plot is giant sharks. It's about giant fucking sharks. Why is it that hard to build a movie around that? The giant sharks disappear for like almost completely in the second act and only appear in the third act. Why does it need to be 2 hours? Anyway, giant fucking sharks. So there's this really long sequence where basically it becomes like Deep Blue Sea kind of, minus the giant fucking sharks for some reason. And they got this very elaborate task to try to escape from this facility while the giant sharks have escaped out into the real world because of a blast that caused a hole in the trench, so now the sharks can escape. Which again, they just kind of disappear while everyone else is in this underground facility that nobody cares about. They eventually get out of that. They find that, and then the plot finally remembers that there are sharks involved here, and then they start going after the sharks. That's the movie actually gets interesting again. Oh, and a giant squid. Giant squid, cool. Sure, why not? But even then, when the giant sharks do finally appear, they go to this place called Party Island. Not even kidding, that's what it's called. Where we forget about the giant sharks, again, to fight other little prehistoric, like, crocodile things on land. Because that's what I wanted from the Meg 2. I want a little crocodile thingies. Not giant fucking sharks. Is it really that hard to stretch out a plot about giant sharks? Like, did you really need all this? You couldn't cut any of this out? No, it had to be all the things. I don't know why. All the reviews I've done so far today, this one is making me the most angry, and I don't know why. Because I don't know why this is that hard. It should not be this hard. So when it actually involves giant sharks, it's still fun. Like, it's hard not to see a giant shark fight a giant squid and not have a bit of a good time. Regardless of how much CGI it is. It's hard not to watch Jason Statham grab, like, exploding pikes and on a speedboat or whatever you call it, like, jet ski, and blow up sharks that way. That's still kind of cool. When it gets into, like, his Latino rival, that gets dumb. When it gets into the Captain Planet villain stuff, shit gets dumb. There's just a lot of unnecessary padding here, and I don't understand why the decision was made to include all these, like, weird-ass tangents in this film. It has a lot of tangents, and it just doesn't make any sense for its inclusion to me. And it drags the whole thing down. It makes the whole thing really insufferable to watch, and it's not even dumb fun. It's just dumb and frustrating, because all I wanted was giant fucking sharks, and it shouldn't have taken me 2 hours to get there. So, yeah, the Meg 2, it makes me angry. It makes you very angry. So that's all that's all the movies I have watched on streaming and in theaters lately. Thank you guys for watching all this batch. I'm going to try to catch up on more as we go along. If there's anyone in particular you want me to review that I have not done yet, please let me know in the comments below. Until then, I will see you all in the next batch. All right, bye-bye.